I think it would probably be something where actually everybody's involved. Because actually, I think one of the keys to these things is involvement. If people aren't involved or disenfranchised, if they're involved, then they feel that they've got something to offer and they've got something to gain.
The last government had very similar aspirations but used different words when they came to power around localising, albeit very different times when money wasn't so tight. And I guess there's a danger now that this becomes a needs must.
What makes a successful community? Integration is an important element.
Yeah.
Sustainability, i.e. Communities which stick together.
What does big society look like? To me, big society looks like tenant management. It's getting people that receive public services in control of the public services they receive, rather than leaving it to the big kind of local organisation. So yes, giving people power, giving people control, giving people priorities, and helping us to make the difficult decisions.
Well, I suppose that would look like everyone who lives in a community being a part of it and taking responsibility for things like, if somebody's dropping litter, doing something about it, if somebody's being antisocial, trying to do something about it, but also supporting those that can't necessarily speak up and do things for themselves.
Obviously, we should all be striving for anyway, as a matter of course. It's our role as human beings, I guess, but it's not just something that's can be put together through words. It's about actions, really.
So you look at the private sector in housing, and I think there is a national housing shortage, and so the private sector must have a role to play in trying to close that gap and trying to help people in housing need. And I think the private sector should be working more closely together with housing associations to help local authorities with the statutory obligations and to free up houses and increase the housing supply.
I think the private sector can play a big role in supporting the big society, because the private markets are an integral part of this country, and we've got a great history of the private sector supporting communities, and I think that they'll step up to the challenge this time. I think they can play a different role through supporting communities, but also social businesses.
Private sector investment is clearly critical in any local community. If you think about most of the things you use on a day-to-day basis, it's the private sector, whether you go to the barber shop, whether you're going down the pub, whether you're going to buy your milk from the corner shop.
The internet could actually play a big part in bringing together of communities, especially sort of the BME communities, which are spread, especially where I live in London, spread in various pockets, that they could come together online and create a sense of community there.
People, communities of people, it's that simple.
I think what makes communities function is the variety of people that you have in them, how they communicate and have networks. I think for a community to function, it's got to have good networks. People have got to communicate with each other. That's often why when we talk about the community hubs like churches or pubs or schools or community centres is what is the appears to make a community function, because people are coming together. It's people communicating. That's what makes communities function.
I don't know really.
Dragons are a myth. Society isn't a myth. Society's been here forever and will be here forever. I think it has got bigger though as technology's come along and good infrastructure. People don't just live in their village anymore. They've got the worldwide stage to go and live at. So our society has got bigger, but people want society and need society, and different societies have been created.
Your original question, what they'll see as a strong community, it's one that feels comfortable and engaging with itself and its neighbours.
And people just that get along together. There's got to be good communication.
Making them feel part, or if you like, driving what their services will be. And I think that's what makes a strong community.
voluntary projects, it tends to be people who live within that locality. I think they've got much more of an interest to see something happen as a personal thing, where it's something that they're doing for themselves that impacts on themselves, whereas a professional may have the right commitment, but at the end of the day they're probably going away from that locality and not living in it. So the voluntary side of it I feel they tend to live, breathe in a more personal way, and it's something they're involved in doing for themselves and that locality, whereas a professional, yes, they might have all the right experience doing it for the right reasons, but I don't feel it's as personal as it sometimes is from the voluntary sector.
If you're going to come out of your front door at night and get involved in something that's got to be, you've got to feel that what you're contributing is going to be worthwhile, and it's of some interest to you. If you feel you're just banging your head against a brick wall, then why bother?
Professionally run projects, I think quite a lot of the time there are people who run them and they really care about what they're doing as well. But the real difference, I suppose, is the level of people's own time and value that they put into volunteer-led projects. And sometimes it's just phenomenal really to see how much they care about something.
You get people who really want to strive for something, but I think again, being practical about it, if it's a simple issue, if it's a simple concept to understand about what they want to do, because I think some people find the idea of community, sometimes it's a bit of it's a nebulous thing rather than something tangible, and that's why you start looking at things like institutions like the church, schools and what have you.
The joy of involvement is that people do it from passion and commitment and drive rather than obligation. If you try and force obligation on people, you'll get either people reluctant or angry, or it will just turn people off the whole involvement process altogether.
If there are meetings in your areas, then I think in a way you should go to them. Even if you don't know that much about it, go and find out, because to me you can only actually be critical if you know something about the facts. You can't actually criticise if you don't know anything about what's going on. So
around common causes where people can see mutual benefit, so that they get something back themselves, but they're also able to give something back to other people and to society more generally. So there's a sort of quid pro quo thing going on.
In order to make that sort of real as part of any big society project is to enable those people who live within those specific communities to identify, to come together, that common bond, to identify what's relevant to them in order to be able to move forward as that one community.
Different communities function in different ways. You need to look at the makeup of the population in the community, but I mean, I suppose the word community itself, there's an assumption there that people are coming together around common cause.
It's not quite the right word for society. If you're asking for what innovation and thinking about ways of doing things, capturing the enthusiasm and turning it into action, if that's what you call enterprise, then yes, enterprise works in communities and involvement.
Enterprise, from a business sense, it's giving people the chance to develop their ideas, to people with no money or starting from a lower position can become, through their ideas, through not money, not backing, but through ideas, can develop those and reach higher, reach to the top.
I think everybody needs it, everybody wants it obviously, but everybody does need it. Isolation, it's not good for anybody.
I don't think everybody does need a community, but some people benefit from the community. Personally, I think it depends on your personality. I'm quite happy not to live in a community. I'd like to live remote from everybody else, but it's a personal choice whether community helps you or not really.